So we're here.
Yes,
This
we
is
are.
where we are. I'm so bad at this sometimes. Tell us your name and what you do. I know you do so many things.
All right, well, hi everybody there. My name is Darryl Bishop. I am an author, a screenwriter, playwright, I DJ, and I also am certified interrogator.
My first question, what do you think about when you're alone in your car? I feel like interrogating.
No, when I'm alone, well, when I did have my car, what I would think about was hopefully not getting pulled over. That was the first thing that popped in my head was look as calm as possible, and then when the cops pass by, just both hands on the wheel, look for them when they pass by. And then put on my Britney Spears CD and start jamming.
So how do you fit all these pieces into this artistic puzzle?
It's kind of funny because a lot of my stories, they use a lot of my experiences in loss prevention in my interviews. One of my stories that I have is called Witness for the Defense. The defense lawyer, he actually used a lot of interrogation tactics to get the other person to kind of trip up on the stand. So I use a lot of what I've been taught and what I've learned to kind of build a story around. So it actually gives the story a lot of weight. One of the things I call my stories, I call it truth in a fictionalized world. So it's almost like it doesn't happen, but the way it's written, you can identify with the characters, identify with the places and locations. A lot of my stories, well, they take place in like Staten Island, but I don't call Staten Island. I call Newton Falls, and some stories written up in Massachusetts. So it's a very broad spectrum that I use. It's like a brush. You paint just a lot of broad strokes and put it together from there.
I think it's important. I think it's in all aspects, but maybe more so in books, because especially if they're books translated to movies, when you're reading in the story, it's different for every person because everyone's perspective is different on everything, and you're kind of creating or painting this picture of what is going on in the book in your head.
Yeah, for me, my creative process is pretty much, since I'm a DJ, I'm very much into music. So I use music to kind of create the stories that I write. So one of the things I do on my Facebook page, Darryl Bishop on Facebook, of course. So when you come on my Facebook page, I actually give out previews and teasers. And one of the things that I tell the reader is, when you're reading a story, I have a certain song that I want people to listen to. So for example, I don't know if you know who Sarah McLachlan is. She has a song called Fallen. Yeah. And one of the stories I'm writing is called Lady on the Ledge. And one of the characters' name is Clarissa. And Clarissa is, she's a character from back in the 1600s in Ireland. And the song Fallen kind of dictates her life because it explains a character who is so flawed because she's made so many bad choices in her life that she feels almost as if no one kind of understands where she's coming from. So if you listen to Fallen by Sarah McLachlan, it basically, what I do is I close my eyes and I just listen to the music. And when you do that, you almost get a picture in your head of what the character's trying to say. So that's what I do with my stories. I just let the music play, and it pretty much writes the story for me.
What kind of, so you're right, you said truth that lies in fiction, is that
Truth
what
in a fictionalized world.
I really like that. Can you explain that? Can you just...
So what it is it's pretty much the ability to kind of create situational scenarios that people identify with easily. Whether it be a location that they know or a person they can identify with. A lot of my characters have bits and pieces of me interjected in them. So people who know me can say, okay, yeah, well, I could see this happening because I know someone like this. For example, with the book I have called When September Ends, Alan and Madison are the couple, and Alan, lost his wife 3 years ago, just like I lost my wife a couple years ago as well. And Madison kind of, they met when they were at the point of their lives where they were trying to find themselves. So they kind of got together, and one of the chapters in my book is called Sins of the Father. So in that chapter, Alan identifies his issues with his father after his mother passed away. And it's kind of like where I actually had a reader come back to me and say, she cried because it was a powerful scene, because he pretty much sat there and asked his father, well, why did you abandon me? You weren't there for me. And it explains the character's obsession with his acceptance of people, because now that he felt like maybe his father abandoned him, that he has such issues now with his personal relationships that he can't trust anyone. So I took a lot of my personal issues and I wrote it into that book, and it was kind of it was a way of self-healing, because it kind of got me to identify issues with depression, insecurity, abandonment issues. So I put a lot of that out there, and I put myself on the paper and just let the reader kind of take what they want from it. I
think that is kind of like the best sort of therapy that you could ever get, and people, it's like what I was saying before, emotion in work is so much better than work. You could tell a difference when someone writes something and they're actually feeling it. it's like an inherent feeling that you can relate to somebody else, and that work is always better than like forceful work, like say like work that you made for just to kind of make money. Like we talk about that a lot too, how work that I have made from like when I was doing my senior thesis and I was like taking off and I could do whatever I wanted, and it was like and I was doing the same thing. It was self-healing because I spent so much time with the painting, you know, it became whatever it was, versus work that I make now to make money, which you could tell the difference. The strokes are different. I'm sure it's the same thing with writing.
Well, yeah, I went to a class about 9-10 years ago with a friend of mine, and this guy was doing a seminar, and he said something that kind of stuck with me. He said, you know, you could either make a living or live your making. So that,
like, so many good quotes in this
you know, so it kind of really it struck me, whereas, you know, we all need to make money. That's the basic essence of our, you know, we work to kind of support ourselves. But when you find something that you do, it's no longer work, it's a passion. So, you know, what I taught a creative writing class in Massachusetts Boys and Girls Club over the summer, and I would tell, you know, the kids, you know, do what you think is making you happy. Regardless of whatever you do in your life, you have to find that one thing that you're passionate about. And the funny thing about me and writing was never my first joy. My first love was always music. And then I got into loss prevention, and I got into interrogations, and you know, work with the police departments and everything else. And I kind of stuck with that because it was something that I kind of it drove me. And I started writing pretty much by accident because my sister, at the time I was going through a lot of personal issues with my sister, you know, Abby, she says, you know, you really need to start writing, because people knew that I was a writer, and she asked me to help her friend write a paper. So I did it, and her friend got an A, and then, you know, I was like, oh, if people start coming to help write their paper, I didn't really think much of it, because to me it was just, I did it for fun. And I started writing my stories, and the funny thing is, my mom, God rest her soul, she wrote 2 books before she passed away. She got, you know, and they were all poetry books. And I kind of started writing as a means of kind of getting closer to her. And people started realizing, well, yeah, you know, you have a talent with you. And I put it on Facebook at first because my thing was never really to make money off of it. I wrote it, my friends liked it, that's all I cared about. And when I moved to Massachusetts, I had followers, so someone actually took one of my stories and sent it to a publisher.
Wow.
And they contacted me. I got contacted by 3 different publishers. And
that's when you know you're good.
That's when you know you're lucky. So you know, I'm a skeptical person. So they're on the phone. I'm sitting there going, "Who is this? Is this a joke?" You know, I'm already telling you. So I'm thinking it's a whole big scheme. But they're like, "No, we like your work. Send us something else." So I submitted the interview, which is one of my very first story was called Interview, and they read it, and within 5 hours I got a contract. So, you know, I've been writing for them ever since.
I want your life.
No, you don't. No, you don't. You don't want to get stopped.
So you would consider yourself first and foremost an author?
No, I consider myself a DJ first and foremost. That's
Where do you DJ at?
Well, I'm not in any clubs. I did a set at Rock and Soul on 7th Avenue in Manhattan about a couple weeks ago. I just DJ for myself. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I have videos on YouTube as well. I have a decent following, but the funny thing is I have more of a following with my writing than people gravitate to my music afterwards, because now it's like I can interject and say, well, listen, I need you to listen to this, or, you know, I've gotten contacts to ghostwrite a book for somebody. You know, I've submitted a storyline to Stars Network. I'm talking to people from HBO, someone from NBC took one of my books and they're interested in using it as one of the episodes for SVU. So I'm trying to get my name out there as much as possible.
Cool. Why don't you do something where you like combine music and writing?
I'm actually thinking about putting out a book with a soundtrack with it, because a lot of the chapters that I write have music that specifically is geared towards the book. One of the books I'm working on is going to come out for the summer. It's called The Nation. It deals with the Latin Kings and how they took over a town in Massachusetts. And I mean, the Latin Kings are very prevalent in New York, but where I was in Taunton, they're not really a known gang. It's more like Bloods and Crips and, you know, and Folk Nation. So when I wrote the story, it was more geared towards 2 detectives and how they were trying to figure out why these violent crimes are happening. And I wrote that story about 1.5 years ago, and I stopped because at the time when the 2 officers in Brooklyn got assassinated, a friend of mine who actually is on the job was reading it, and he said, you know, this is kind of eerily similar to what happened to Ramos and the other cop that got shot. And I'm like, okay. So I read it, and I'm like, you know, it literally was step by step how those cops got assassinated. The cop in my book met the same fate. So I had to stop the production of that book for a while, and I started rewriting again. And then I wrote chapter 8, which was a funeral, and I actually let one of the guys from the studio read it, and they liked it. So I've gotten a lot of good feedback. So, you know, my thing is, I love writing now, and it's kind of just my way of saying, okay, this is my legacy for my children. So when I'm no longer here on this planet, something that's just
yeah, I think that's a lot of the same kind of goal that we have as artists. It's just like about a legacy. We want to leave something behind. We want to tell people, we want people to know that we were here. And we did something that was worthwhile.
Exactly.
Okay, Darryl, so tell us where we can find all these goodies.
Okay, well, you can find me on Facebook, so facebook.com/Bishop Author. I am on Instagram, Darryl Bishop. I am on YouTube, DJ Flavors. That's FLAVAZ. You can also find me on Facebook there as well. You can find me on Twitter @Bishop Author and @DJ Flavors. So just, and I also give out these free previews and free teasers of the books I have coming out. Look out this year. October is a triple release for October and the dual release for the summer. So about 7 books will be coming out this year.
We got love free stuff.
Yep. I don't know if free, but free preview is always good to have.
Thanks, Darryl.
Yeah. Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome.